want to understand how we're considering the impacts of drive-through fast food outlets, particularly in the Peel Road. But there's an increasing amount of litter across the island, and you can tell it's from fast food outlets because it's branded. And I just want to understand how are we considering the impact of the litter that fast food outlets create, and also the impact that it has on Manx agriculture.
One of your questions about this subject is relating to whether the Environment, Food and Agriculture Minister supports this. Is this something that government should be supporting, this type of business?
The Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture are very keen to support Manx produce, which is great. I think we all want to support Manx produce. So I'm interested to understand how fast food outlets, particularly off-island brands, are they supporting our local producers with using their produce? And also the department looks at the environment, and litter is an issue for the environment. It causes a lot of damage in many ways, and it looks very untidy. It damages the image that people have of our island. So I think it falls within their remit in a number of areas. So I think we should be considering these aspects when we are looking at these proposed developments.
You mentioned specifically the plans for Peel Road. Do you think that's the right site for these kind of outlets?
I'm keen to understand how this fits into our overall plans. So if you look at what currently happens in Peel Road, there's a lot of congestion in Peel Road due to fast food outlet that's there already. And unfortunately what tends to happen is people drive through, they take their food, they eat it, and then they throw it out their car window. And you can see that across the island. You'll see it here in Douglas Head most mornings. You'll see litter and seagulls will be feeding on it, and it's not just here, it's in Port Sodrick car park. I get complaints about that in my constituency, the amount of fast food litter. And I was talking to some of my colleagues, and they tell me actually it's quite common. You know, they see it in Peel, they see it in Laxey. So right across the island we're seeing drive-through fast food litter, and I think we should be considering the impact that has, particularly if we're looking at more fast food outlets on Peel Road. In many ways, it potentially would be better if we had these food outlets in the centre of town. If we want to regenerate our capital, Douglas, people would perhaps less likely to drive there as well. So just want to understand the thinking and if we're really considering all the impacts of these proposed developments.
Practically, what can be done about the litter situation? Should there be maybe a condition of the planning? Should they be made to provide bins, something like that?
Well, I think bins are an absolute minimum. If you look, we're not unique in having this problem. So fast food outlets cause a lot of litter, and in the UK they reckon that 40% of litter that is collected comes from fast food outlets in some towns and cities. So elsewhere they've looked at mitigants, so sensible things that you can do to reduce the amount of litter in terms of packaging, and also the operators need to take a responsibility for the litter. I appreciate it's not them that's throwing it away, so there's a number of things I think we can do, a number of initiatives that we should look at in terms of reducing the impact of fast food outlets.
You've mentioned already the traffic, particularly the Peel Road site, the traffic situation there. How much of a problem would that be once these new outlets are there as well?
So that's a great question. And if you look what's happening at the moment, there are significant traffic jams and congestions on Peel Road. And people tend to park in the middle of the road, waiting for a space to drive into a fast food outlet, which is odd, I think, in terms of behaviour. And the road can get backed up all the way back into the centre of Douglas, and all the way back up the roads that feed into the Quarterbridge roundabout, which is one of the busiest junctions on the island. So we know we have an issue at the moment, and a number of people mentioned that to me. Do we want to make that worse, I guess, is the question. What is our plan to remediate some of the traffic congestion we're seeing at the moment and plan properly for future development?
Could this pose a problem? Let me try that one again. Could this pose a problem accident-wise?
I think the danger with any congestion is people get frustrated, and when people get frustrated, they get worked up, and then they can sometimes drive aggressively. So it could do. I'm not sure that there have been many accidents. It's more the congestion that it's causing, and the pollution that causes as well. People sitting in their cars waiting to get in and out of fast food outlets. But it's a multifaceted issue, and one thing that I'm particularly interested in is, are we supporting Manx food producers? You know, you've seen an emergence of artisan food producers. There's some brilliant new food outlets that have opened in the last few years, and I just wonder, will any Manx food and produce be consumed in these proposed new outlets? I mean, that feels quite important to me. If we have a limited number of outlets here on the island, would it not make sense to encourage them or to require them to use Manx produce?
Obviously, with a lot of chains, that's not always the way they go. They do still employ Manx people, though. Is it all bad?
It's certainly not all bad, and yes, they employ people. I'm not against fast food outlets. All I'm saying is, can we look at the impacts, some of the negative impacts that they can create? There are some positive impacts as well, as you've highlighted. So we need to look at things in the round, and I want to make sure that we're considering all of these aspects quite carefully prior to proceeding with potentially could be quite a major change in terms of provision of additional fast food outlets in one particular area of Ireland, which is already struggling with traffic and creating quite a lot of litter.